Hey, it's Ruby. Welcome back to my channel and to the start of probably my favorite content, which is the end of year content. I love talking about, everything that I read in the year, the good, the bad. And today we're going to start things off with the good, the positives, because I did make a list of 10 of the worst books, which is coming. So you'll see that. And I'm always a little scared of posting, anything negative because I'm aware that some of those books are going to be people's favorites, but reading is subjective. So I hope that I don't offend anybody with those picks because a lot of them were pretty popular. So, anyway, today is about the good stuff, the ones that I loved. And I feel like I didn't have the best reading year because I've been going through my shelves, my physical TBR, and you know that if you watch my videos regularly, we do bookshelf ultimatum. Now we're going to be doing clear the cart also because I really want to read what I have so that I can part with the books that I don't love. And because in the past I just was buying books for the sake of buying them without knowing my reading taste and what I liked and what I didn't, I end up with a lot of books that are not necessarily bad, but just not my faves. And they bring the ratings down. But it's okay. I mean, I have them. I'm going to read them and I'm going to have a good time. So let's start off with some stats because Fable does such a good job of just giving you all the stats, and they're also super cute. I'm super pissed because they were doing this bookshelf thing and I didn't do it because I was waiting, but then December was crazy. But let's start off with some Fable stats. If you do not follow me on Fable, you totally should. I'm pretty active on Fable and Goodreads. On Goodreads, I'm just pretty much updating you as I'm reading the book. But on Fable, I have my book club, which I love. It's so fun, and we will be continuing on in 2025. They chose Spark of the Everflame by Cole to be the January book club pick. So definitely join us on book club. Everything, the info is down below to join us. It's completely free and it's super fun because people are very interactive and in the chapter chats, and I just love that. If you're in book club, thank you so much for joining me over there. It's been growing slowly, but we have a lot of fun. So looking at the stats, we have just an overview of some of the books that I read. I don't know that I'll be doing the tier ranking, but you can get a little idea. I did read 138 books, which is crazy. I did not think that I would read more than 100 books in a year. This was my first full year of reading and I read 138. And I feel like as a slow reader, obviously I'm not reading super fast. It takes me a couple days to get through just one book usually, unless I'm really into it, then I can do it in 1 or 2 days. But for the most part, it takes me 3 to 4 days to get through a book. And that's as someone that has all the time in the world to read. I don't have children. I don't, have a full-time job. I, have a lot of time to read. So it's pretty easy to get reading done. But I tend to average 10 to 12 books a month. So yeah, it was just crazy to see that. My average star rating was 3.6 stars, which is pretty good considering that I'm reading a lot of these books that I didn't love. I feel like my reading is pretty diverse. I do branch out a lot, so I think that's good, but sometimes it affects the ratings. Like I said, I read 138 books, and the most that I read was August. I read 15 books in August, which was crazy. We have our average star rating breakdown. Genres, I apparently read romance the most. I don't know how Fable does this, but I read romance the most. Go figure. Authors, I read SJM the most, and it's because I reread all of ACOTAR, and then I read the first half of Throne of Glass. So that was a lot of Sarah J. Maas books. But in 2025, I want to get better at finishing series because I have so many authors on this list because I was starting so many series, but I need to get better at finishing them. I was in the top 1% of fantasy readers and the top 1% of YA readers. I love YA. Hype Train, Fourth Wing, listen, I know that it's not the best book, but I loved it. I gave it 5 stars. I stand by those 5 stars. And a hot take was Bunny. I gave it 1 star, which was a little harsh. I should have given it like at least 2 stars, but I was feeling the 1 stars and I did it, and I'm not taking it back. But that is for the next video. Anyway, so like this is just a bit of stats from Fable. Like I said, I really like how they format things. They're colorful and like cute, and they always want like make me want to engage. So yeah, let's get into the list. I kind of put them in order from 10 to 1, but it's not that serious. I feel like it's a good order. Like I said, nothing really stood out. Nothing was 6-star read for me, like Happy Places for me. Some honorable mentions. I did do some rereads. I did Happy Place by Emily Henry, 6 stars. I reread Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros, 5 stars. But these are not going to be on the list because these are books that I read in like 2023. But just worth mentioning. Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter. I also reread that one. 5 stars. Love it. But it can't be on this list because this is strictly 2024 books that I read like in 2024. So let's start off at number 10. At number 10, we have a book that I read in one single sitting in one day. I was playing The Sims and listening to the audiobook, and I was so invested that I read the whole thing. Or I listened to the whole thing while I played. It is Heartless Hunter by Kristen Ciccarelli, also known as the Crimson Moth in the UK. In Australia, I guess. But yeah, Heartless Hunter. This was a really fun ride, literally. It was about this girl named Rune who is a socialite. She's, living in society, living her life. People don't take her too seriously. They just think she's another socialite, and she is, but she's got a secret. She's actually a witch. And this is like witch versus witch hunter. She ends up being courted by a witch hunter named Gideon, and she, reciprocates. She, I guess, courts him back, although that's not a thing, right? But she reciprocates because she is living this like vigilante life where she literally suits up and becomes the Crimson Moth to go and save other witches that have been captured by Gideon and his crew. So yeah, it's very much an enemies to lovers situation in the sense that she's a witch and he's a witch hunter, and at first they don't really know who they are, but they have their suspicions, which is why they go along with the courting. And it was really fun. It also ends with this reveal. I don't necessarily want to say reveal, but I am very curious to see where this is going, because the way that it ends, I'm just like very interested in seeing how book 2 is gonna go. And from what I hear, I heard good things about the arc readers for the second book, so I know that I'll be picking it up as soon as it comes out because it was actually really good. Oh look, this is cute. There's a pic. I never saw this because I listened to the audiobook, but there we have Rune and Gideon. Cute. So yeah, this is my number 10 pick, Heartless Hunter. Coming in at number 9, we have a sci-fi book. I really do enjoy sci-fi and I don't read it that much, but I definitely need to do that more in 2025. This was such an unexpected book. Like, I had heard people rave about this book, but I just didn't think that I would love it because people rave about the Red Rising trilogy and I don't love the Red Rising trilogy. But this was really good. We're talking about Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. This was just everything that I expected it to be and more. It was so good. People say that the audiobook of this is top tier, that you need to listen to it. I didn't. I just read the book physically because I didn't have the audiobook, but I definitely recommend the audiobook based on what everybody says. And I can just imagine because this was such a good story. So in this, we follow our main character, Ryland, who is a scientist essentially, but he's left the world of academia behind and he's now I think, an elementary school teacher or a middle school teacher, a teacher nonetheless, because he had this thing. Basically, his work was like very much criticized and ridiculed, and he left the world of academia behind to become a teacher. But at the beginning of the book, we find out that the earth is in trouble. Essentially, the sun is dying, and obviously we cannot survive without the freaking sun. So the superpowers of the world, all the nations, the US, Russia, China, come together to create Project Hail Mary in order to save humanity, essentially. And they know how the sun's dying and why the sun's dying. They just don't know how to stop it. And so that is the goal of Project Hail Mary. And at the beginning of the book, our main character Rylan wakes up not knowing where he is, not knowing who he is. He's surrounded by 2 dead bodies, and it is just insane. The characters in this, I love them. The writing was so good. The way, the utilization of flashbacks in this was so good. And there is a lot of math and physics in the beginning, but don't be intimidated, because freaking Andy Weir does a masterful job of walking you through things without calling you dumb. You know, like, Ryland is obviously a genius and he's remembering things, but he's talking things through and explaining them in his head just to, you know, talk them through. But you learn as he's just remembering, you know? So it was just so, so good. I gave this 5 stars. I recommend it to anybody. Even if you're not a sci-fi girl, pick it up, because it's just such a good story. It ends up being thrilling and like, you're on the edge of your seat, but it's also endearing and hopeful. It's such a good story. Read it. Project Hail Mary. So good. Next up, we have one that I honestly didn't know much about. The Love of My Afterlife by Kirsty Greenwood. I picked this up on a whim just because I had heard one singular person talking about how it was like her favorite book of the year and she loved it. And so I was like, okay, let me pick that up. I bought it during one of those buy 3 for the price of 2 Target sales. And it was so much fun. And this is just like goofy, silly fun, nothing too serious. Like, don't think too much about it. But in this, we follow Delphi, who is recently deceased, and she wakes up essentially in the afterlife, and she has like an afterlife therapist who lets her know everything that went down. She dies a horrific death, but it's also ridiculous and incredibly embarrassing, and she cannot believe that that is how she died. But yeah, she essentially wakes up in the afterlife waiting room and she's told that she's dead. She's taking it all in, and then she meets this guy also in the afterlife waiting room, the most gorgeous guy she's ever seen, the most perfect guy she's ever seen. And they have this immediate spark, immediate connection, like drawn to each other. They engage with each other and they realize that they are so into each other. The catch is that he's not actually dead. Her like afterlife therapist comes and she's like, oh, whoa, 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 whoa. You're not dead. You are just at the dentist getting anesthesia, and sometimes it happens. Sometimes you just pop up, but like, you're not dead. And then she like boops him on the head and he's back in the land of the living. And Delphi's like, whoa, 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 what are you doing? Like, that was the love of my life. And so she makes a deal. She has 10 days to go back to Earth, essentially, and find this guy who she knows nothing about other than his first name and that he lives in London. And she has 10 days to get him to kiss her. She can't kiss him. He has to kiss her. If she does accomplish that, then she'll come back to life and she'll be able to live her life. But of course, it is super hard. And she ends up with like this group of friends, unlikely friends, and I really like all the side characters in this. I thought they were really cute, and you know, it really makes you think of the things that you take for granted, the way that you live your life. Sometimes you're just going through the motions, you're just not focusing on what you should. And I ended up really, really liking this super sweet, funny book. So I definitely recommend it for like a funny, fun time. This was a good one. Next up, we have the only book that I don't own because I'm waiting for the paperback of this. It's been released in hardcover, but I only like my romances in paperback, and that is The Paradise Problem by Christina Lauren. I read this book twice this year. I had to reread it because, oh, actually, I think I finished it in January, so we're counting it as a 2025 reread. But I really, really like this book. Christina Lauren is hit or miss for me, but they have some hits. I really like this. In this, we follow our main character. What's her name? Anna. Her name's Anna. We follow Anna and Liam. And Anna and Liam are in college at the beginning of the book. She is trying to finish her bachelor's, whereas he's trying to finish his PhD. And they run into a problem where they need housing, but the only housing available is family housing. So they end up getting married, even though they don't even know each other. Anna is Liam's little brother's friend. So he's the one that introduces them and is like, hey, you both need housing. You should get married. And they do. So flash forward, they finish their degrees and they get a divorce and they never see each other again. And then like a couple years later, maybe 2-3 years later, Liam comes knocking on her door. Anna's life has not played out the way that she thought it would. She's really struggling financially, and then her dad is also sick and she takes care of him. So she's got a rough life. She's trying to become an artist, but it's not going well. Liam knocks at her door and is like, surprise, you're still my wife and I need your help. And she is surprised, but also because she's just like a go with the flow kind of gal, she agrees to it. So she ends up going to a family wedding with him, and his family's like super rich and snobbish, and she is very much not that. She has like bright pink hair, and yeah, she has to pretend to be his wife and that she's been his wife for the past 5 years, and it's really fun and funny. She is so funny and their banter is really good. I really like that. But I really liked her because she's really funny. She just says whatever's on her mind. She does not have a filter. And I really like that about the book. It's cute. It's fun. It's like summery. It's not too serious, but it was definitely worth the reread. And I feel like I will be rereading it in the future again. So I definitely will be picking this one up. And I do recommend it if you just want like a funny romance with like cute banter, you know? Next up, we have an Emily Henry, Book Lovers by Emily Henry. I did a whole vlog where I read all of the books that she's written, or her adult books. And Happy Place is still my number one, but like I said, that one I read in 2023. Book Lovers, I also freaking loved. I gave it 5 stars, and it was just very much my type of book. These were my kind of people. They were snarky and witty and a little unlikable, but I like that. Like I like a little douche in my characters. So I really like this. It says, one summer, 2 rivals, a plot twist they didn't see coming. In this, we follow Nora and we follow August. Nora is a literary agent, I believe, and August, I think, is an editor, and they work in New York City. You know, they have their careers. They're very much about their careers. They don't have time for love. They don't have time for family. They are focused people. And at the beginning of the book, they meet for a potential, like, you know, job working together, and they just really don't like each other. They really rub each other the wrong way. They do not like each other, so they don't work together because they're like, there's no way this is gonna work. And they part ways, right? And then they end up meeting in a small town and forced to kind of talk because it's a really small town. And I just really liked how everything plays out. I feel like I like the characters. I do think they had some growth. The character development was there for me. I liked the plot. I liked their story. I liked what each of them was going through individually. And I said it in the vlog, but this is an instance where I liked the characters together. And I feel like usually in romances, I like the characters together. Like I will tolerate one of the characters because of the other one. Oftentimes you know, one of them annoys me and the other one makes them tolerable. But in this situation, I love them both individually and together. I truly, truly love these characters. It didn't matter if they were on the page together or separately. And that is huge for me. So I really love this book. I feel like every little side thing that happened, I liked. There was just nothing that I disliked about it. So because of that, it has a spot on the best books of 2024. We've reached the top five. Again, like these are kind of sort of, but not too seriously. So the next one I got as an arc, I got the arc scent, which I didn't pull, but yeah, I ended up pulling the Fairy Loot exclusive edition, which is stunning. It is gorgeous. The artwork in this is beautiful. They did such a good job with this book. But this is The Night Ends with Fire by KX Song. And I never hear anybody talk about this, but I absolutely love this book. This was described as Mulan meets the Poppy War, and I have not read the Poppy War, but I feel like I see where they're coming from because in this we follow our main character, Maylin, and Maylin is our Mulan, but it's a reimagining. It's not a retelling. Unlike Mulan, Maylin does take her dad's place and goes to fight in the war, but not because she doesn't want her dad to get hurt, not because she loves him so much, because she freaking hates him. And the reason that she's doing it is purely to escape from the hellhole that is her life. Her dad betroths her to this disgusting human being of a man. He is like a wife beater and he's like killed his previous wives, and she's like, oh hell no, you want me to marry that old ass wife beater? Absolutely not. And so she ends up taking his place because of that, to escape. And then once she's there, she's very ambitious. She does definitely wants like honor and glory for herself, not for her family. And so that's like the difference between Maylin and Mulan. But I really like this. We get a love triangle also in here, but I don't feel like the romance took over the story. I felt like the story and the romance had equal parts. They had their moments. And the love triangle in this, I actually don't know who I want her to be with, which is insane because usually you choose someone in a love triangle. But with this, I just feel like she has chemistry with both guys. And I don't know. One is the good guy and one is the bad guy. One is like the Shang character. And then the other one is the prince that they're fighting, like the opposing kingdom. And I just don't know who I want her to be because one of them is like super cute and sweet to her. But the other one is like the bad boy, you know, that challenges her and is a lot more like her. I don't know. I don't know, but I cannot wait. Book 2 already got announced and I'm going to be reading it as soon as it comes out. I hope that I get an arc of it. I don't even know who I have to beg for it, but I will because I'm so ready for it. It was such a good story. I do want more of like the spirits, the dragon and the phoenix and all that. So hopefully book 2 will deliver with that, but it was so good. I gave it 5 stars and I definitely recommend it if you are a fan of Mulan. Not the same, but still really good. Coming in at number 4, we have Queen of Shadows by Sarah J. Maas. As I said, I've been reading Throne of Glass. It's been taking me forever. Like, it's been like a year of reading Throne of Glass, but we're making our way slowly but surely, and I'm sure that I will finish it finally in 2025. But I read Queen of Shadows. This is for me book 5 because I started with the Assassin's Blade and I stand by that. But this was so good. I really loved where the characters are at this point of the story. I can't talk about it too much because obviously I will spoil things, but I'm sure everybody knows what Throne of Glass is. We follow Selena Slardothian in Throne of Glass. She's an assassin. She's a badass, but she's gone through some shit. She's really gone through it. And we follow her through 8 books. So you know there's going to be character growth, character development, an amazing plot, some amazing characters. The story is unfolding and it's just getting so good. I will say that, you know, the first couple books are a little slower, but this one was so good. At this point, my favorite character is, or are Aelin and Rowan. Um, but we are starting to see more of these other characters. I want to see more of Manon and Dorian and Lysandra, and we're gonna get there. So I'm so excited to do my tandem read of Tower of Dawn and Empire of Storms. But this one, it was so good. I gave it 5 stars, and that's why it has a spot on the list. We're down to the top 3. This was hard, but I think that I'm good with this. So at number 3 we have Out on a Limb by Hannah Bonham Young. I am so happy that I finally read this book. It was not something that I thought that I would enjoy, which is why I never picked it up, because it has the pregnancy trope, the accidental pregnancy trope, and I had never really read the pregnancy trope, but it's spoken of so negatively. Like, people really don't like it. So I was a little hesitant with this one, but it was so good. It was done so well. There is nothing in this book that I would change. There is nothing in this book that I could complain about. Absolutely nothing. 5 stars. I will reread this every year. It was just so good. I really liked it. So in this we follow Win and Bo. And Win and Bo both have a disability. They're both living with different disabilities, and they meet at the beginning of the book in a Halloween party. They don't know each other, but they find each other attractive and they end up hooking up. Casual. And she ends up pregnant. So she ends up looking for this guy because, like I said, they didn't even know each other. They just hooked up casually. She meets up with him and she lets him know that she's pregnant, and he reacts just in the best way possible. And they are adults about things, and they communicate and they support each other, and it's just beautiful, mature relationship that they have as acquaintances that become friends, that become lovers, and it is absolutely beautiful. I loved every single second of it, and I definitely think you should give this one a try. Even if you've read like the pregnancy trope before and you didn't like it, it's just done so well. Like, at no point of the story was I annoyed or rolling my eyes or waiting to like get to the next chapter. I enjoyed every single word that was printed in this book. 5 stars. Out on a Limb, our number 3 spot. Coming in at number 2 is one that I did not see coming. It is Daisy Haites The Great Undoing. This one is book, what is it? We have Magnolia Parks, then Daisy Haites, then we have another Magnolia. I think this is book 4. Yeah, book 4. In the Magnolia Parks universe. And the reason I didn't see it coming was because when I first started Magnolia Parks, which is such a shit show, so many unlikable characters, it's described as Gossip Girl, but like British. And yeah, it very much is. We're following rich British people that are complete assholes, and I love it. I live for this drama. It is so messy. Like, Magnolia and BJ's relationship is just such a shit show, and they're so messy with each other. But in this, we follow Daisy and Christian and Julian. Daisy and Julian are siblings. Julian's Daisy's older brother, and Christian is her love interest. And the cool thing about Magnolia Parks is that, they're kind of like, you have to read them in order. A lot of people just want to read the Magnolia Parks books or just the Daisy Haites books, but you have to read them in order because they overlap. You just get different point of views, and also like different plots going on. There's like multiple plots, but they very much overlap. So you have to read them in order, but this one has been my favorite. It is so good because I am a Julian girl. I love Julian Haites. I would do anything for Julian Haites. I prefer Julian Haites over BJ. Like, if there's no way that I'm choosing BJ over Julian, absolutely not. I love Julian, and this book, it gave me so much Julian. Like, I know it's called Daisy Haites The Great Undoing, but like, Daisy and Christian were not the ones in this book. This was very much Julian's book, and I loved it. Like I said, if you love the drama, if you loved Gossip Girl, you will love these books because they are messy, but they are entertaining. With Magnolia Parks, it's more focused on the relationship between Magnolia and BJ and just like the shit shows that they are. But with Daisy Hates, we get the plot of, you know, Daisy and Christian's relationship, but also Julian, who is an like art thief. He's kind of like a part of the mob in England. So I don't know, it's just really good and I definitely recommend it. Like I said, if you're here for the drama, you will love this. And this one was my favorite of the 5 that are currently out. We're getting 2 more Daisy Hates books and I cannot wait, but this one was my favorite. 5 stars for Daisy Hates The Great Undoing. And at number 1, this is number 1 for multiple reasons. It's not just because of the book and the contents of the book, because it had its issues, it had its problems, but it was more so the experience for me. We're talking Quicksilver by Callie Hart. Do I truly believe that this is better than like Project Hail Mary, Queen of Shadows, some of these other books? No. But this was the first book that my book club chose. The experience was just on another level for me. This was the first time that I had somebody to talk to about the books that I was reading. You know what I mean? Like, I've never had a little community like that where, you know, I film these videos and I talk to you about the books, but you don't really talk back. You know, sometimes I get comments and stuff, but it's just a whole different experience to be actively reading a book and going chapter by chapter and talking about what's happening with other people. And that is what happens in my book club on Fable. Like, it's just so much fun and it enhanced the reading experience for me so much. And I had so much fun with this. I did love the characters. I love the story, but it did have a couple problems that we're just gonna glaze over. But what happens in this, essentially we follow our main character. What's her name? I already forgot. Saris? Yeah. We follow Saris and she is living a terrible life in poverty and famine and like it's just the worst. She really is living the worst. It's just her and her brother and kind of like their adoptive uncle kind of father figure. And she lives in this really like desert like area of her world, and she ends up stealing gold from a guard, a queen's guard, and she gets into a ton of trouble. Long story short, she gets transported into the fairy world and she meets a fairy there by the name of Kingfisher, who is you know, he's dark and he introduces her to this whole other world, literally and figuratively. And it's just really good. It's a really fun ride. We do get politics in here. We get conflict and like battles, and there's a cool magic system. I can't wait to explore more of this world and where it's going, especially with how it ended, like the book. I am so curious to see if we're gonna get more of like the gods in here along with the fairies and the humans. It has potential. And like I said, because of my book club, I really enjoyed this book. It was fast paced. I was never bored. I love the characters, the story. Not much to complain about. So check it out if you like romantasy and fairies and vampires and gods, because that is all in here. Man, it's hard to speak when you're sick. I feel like I'm out of breath because I literally can't breathe through my nose. So we are done. Those are my top 10 books of 2024. Let me know what your top 10 were, or your top 5, or your top 3, your top whatevers. I would love to know so that I can make a list for 2025 on my TBR. But yeah, let me know what you thought about these books. If you loved them, if you hated them, like I said, no judgment. Reading is so subjective. If you freaking hated Quicksilver, which I know a lot of people did, that's totally fine. Like, I get it. I'll probably see your side of the story too. So yeah, let me know what you thought down below. As always, if you enjoyed today's video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, turn on that notification bell so that you can get notified when I post my 10 worst reads of 2024. Don't come for me. But yeah, I'll see you then. Bye.